Hey everybody, it's Eric here. I'm at the end of the Outdoor Retailer Snow Show in Denver, Colorado. This is the 2020 Snow Show, and I'm here with Renzo
Hinostroza, yes.
Hinostroza, talking about Peruvian wool.
Right.
And I love wool. Wool to me is my favorite fabric of all. There's just nothing that compares to wool as far as how little impact it has on the environment, how you've got a whole other factory of employees out there working in the field every day. They're just chomping on the grass,
Of alpacas, yeah.
Yeah, you got like
running freely.
Of alpacas out there, but there's a problem with wool, and the problem with wool is that there's only really a few sources of reliable sources of wool.
Right.
And primarily, if we get wool in North America, it's coming from Australia or New Zealand.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't really come from. There's not a whole lot of other places that we import wool from. There's some wool that comes in from Scotland, but not much.
Right.
And there's some wool that comes in from Northern Europe, but again, not much. So there's a bunch of wool though that comes out of that's in South America, but unfortunately it never comes out of South America.
Yeah.
And that's not true for all Peruvian wool. It's incredibly hard to get wool, especially really high quality, well carded, high micron, really, really thin fiber wool.
Yeah, right.
Is very hard to get your hands on from South America, from alpaca, from llama, from other not animals that aren't sheep. If you want wool and it's not traditional sheep wool, it's really hard to get your hands on it. And that has a lot to do with distribution and supply chain. And I was wondering, Renzo, if you could talk a little bit about Arms of Andes and what you guys do and how you guys deal with, because everything in your supply chain comes from South America, right?
Yeah, directly from Peru. All right. So we make alpaca outdoor apparel. So it's outdoor apparel made out of 100% alpaca wool. And it's a new brand that's created a new product that usually in this market it's made out of merino, which is highly developed, but in alpaca no one's making it. So it's part of what you're saying in that merino is more accessible, but it's really in this niche that it's not being used, because alpaca is actually used a lot in fashion, but it's a different industry. So when we wanted to make our clothes, buying alpaca being from Peru and also being a center of textiles, we have the ability to make our all of our items directly in Lima, Peru, and then finished in Lima. So the alpaca roam the Andes, and then the yarn is made in Peru, and we make the cloth and assemble the pieces together as well in Lima.
So it's harvested throughout the Andes.
Throughout the Andes,
and then imported into Peru for carding.
Yeah, sent in. Yeah.
And then you go through the whole.
The Andes is in Peru, so yeah, the Andes in Peru. Yeah.
But you also get some alpaca from outside of Peru as well, or is it
no? Yeah, it's all directly in Peru.
Okay.
Well, like 80 to 90% of alpacas in the world
are in
Peru, and that's because they were domesticated in Peru originally 2,000 years ago. So the history of alpaca is really in Peru. Like, these animals for thousands of years have been eating in the highlands, and that's why their fiber is so valuable. They were literally adapted for extreme weather, and we're the first company to apply that. But learning how to do that was a whole story of learning the industry, learning what materials are about that.
Some of the struggles you've had to deal with?
Yeah, so directly when you move out of fashion and into textiles that are thinner knit, closed knit, you need specific machines that know how to use it with a new fiber like alpaca for this market.
So the machines that work for merino don't work so well for alpaca?
Not necessarily, no.
Tooled, or do they need different machines?
It can be both, and as you improve, you improve upon the machinery as well, so you can adapt. But eventually, when you are able to make the fabric, you can do so in one single area, as opposed to currently merino, for example, could be grown in Australia, then shipped to China to make the yarn, then the cloth is made in Vietnam, and then the pieces are put together until it finally gets, and that's a large global footprint to make a sustainable fiber. Luckily, Peru, since it has the industry, we can make it all there.
That's an important point.
Right.
Because each step of that global footprint involves the transportation of that material.
Exactly.
So there's a cost, not only financial, but environmental cost.
Exactly.
To the transporting of that material.
Right.
So even though wool might come out of Australia, be this great merino wool in Australia, if it traveled further than you're going to, wearing it, it's probably not a good deal, right? Like just the building of the garment, if it goes further that way than you're ever going to wear it in the life cycle of the garment.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, if it gets more miles just getting built than you're going to in its use, then it's probably not a good thing. Right?
Yeah, as a sustainable brand, you want to do the best possible. So merino is a huge step positive, you know, but then when possible, you want to reduce the global footprint, and doing it in Peru allows us to do that part. But there is always, you know, contamination and everything. Even if you want to make a fiber out of alpaca, even if you want, there's always processes that can be improved in general. But having it just in Peru allows us to reduce the shipping around as well, and also gives us flexibility of development. Since we all have it in Peru, we can see what else is being made and quickly develop new items. So that's the good thing about working in Peru and Lima, where you have an industry that's developed in textiles. Is we can then create socks, boxers, shirts, leggings, a whole variety of products in Peru. Yeah.
Well, all right. So Lima, Peru is, well, it's not Europe.
No, it's not Europe.
It's not Asia.
No.
And we already have like established cultural, like, you know, how do you
norms,
work with people in Asia? Well, you know, you hand off your card this way. You know,
exactly, yeah.
The meetings go this way instead of that way. If you're in Europe and you're doing business, well, how is that done? There's a great book about kiss, bow, or shake hands, right? So it's about how do you greet. So what are some of the nuances of the differences of working in South America?
Right, well, definitely. So our story is our parents were born in Peru, and me and my siblings were born in California. So as kids, we would visit Peru often, and I live there now. So I live in Peru. My brother lived in China, so he would tell me stories about the cultural differences working there, and exactly what you were saying, passing cards with two hands. And now that we're all working on this, and having lived in Lima, I've gone to appreciate lots of differences in working informality. So it is more informal working in Peru, and that is a difficulty, let's say, a foreign investor would have in coming into Peru. Not only the language differences, but also the cultural differences in the workplace. So, for example, if in the West we're used to sending an email and a task being done and then replied on time, it's not necessarily going to happen like that in Peru. It is a little more informal. You have to follow up often, and that throughout every process that you're trying to do really builds up. So it is more difficult working in Peru because of a different work ethic, but also because there is corruption in the government, and that creates a less stable not only workplace but also infrastructure. So there are holes all over the floors when you're driving the cars, which makes the traffic worse and it makes it more stressful. All of these things really add up, and it becomes a big difference when you compare it to the West.
You were talking about the grind of just getting around Lima.
Yeah.
And doing business in Lima, and how everything just adds to the stress.
To the stress of it, yeah, it's quite stressful.
About that, like what an average day in Lima is like? Because it's one of the most populated cities on the planet, right?
Yeah,
it's very, very popular.
So, like Los Angeles, it's sprawled out. Something like that, yeah. 8 million in Lima, 20 million in the country. If I could be getting the numbers.
And the elevation's like 8,000 feet?
8,000 feet in the mountains, but Lima's on the coast.
Okay.
Right, so it's right on the coast, just like Los Angeles.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and it's similar to Los Angeles in that it's very spread out and there's a lot of traffic. But in that traffic, it's more, the air is more polluted, and you can really smell it. And there's holes in the floor that, because of the corruption, they haven't been fixing at all, even in the nice areas. And so let's say you want to go to the post office, for example. You start going, you're going to hit traffic, and some roads might be closed. You might hit your car, so you got to be careful on the hole, so you got to kind of swerve. People don't really follow traffic norms, so you got to be really aware to not hit your car, which is the norm there. And then maybe when you get to the post office, the person you wanted to work with isn't there and someone else has subbed in for her, but she can't do the shipment because she doesn't know. So a little informality like that, and then you got to go to a different place, and let's say you wanted to take money out of a bank, but more often than not, to do the shipment per se, they only accept cash. So they didn't accept credit cards. So now you got to go to the bank to take money out, and then you got to drive all the way to the other side with the traffic, and then come all the way back. So little things that I wouldn't have noticed make life so convenient, and makes creating a business a lot easier in the West. They really add up. So, and we do a lot of things online. So imagine someone who's like working in the city and trying to develop something.
Yeah, it sounds like a real nightmare. But at the same time,
difficult.
It also sounds like challenges to me always.
Exactly.
I always perceive those as opportunities.
That's correct.
Not only opportunities for growth in a business, but opportunities to improve the environment that you're working in. And
of course.
That road that you travel a bunch.
Right.
At some point, you might be providing so much good to that area that you can get that road fixed.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that is the goal. That's something we were always aware of as kids. Peru has gotten much better. Since we were kids, you would see very, shocking things, homeless children, things like that. And as we got older, it's lessened a lot. And there are new challenges like immigration from countries like Venezuela, which is a current issue. But being in between both cultures, we really don't want, my mom has the most wonderful stories of growing up in the Andes, because she grew up in the Andes Mountains in Cajamarca. And we wouldn't want to lose the uniqueness of the culture. I wouldn't want that, because that's those things I appreciate the most. But outside of that, in the big cities, in the office, there could be definite improvements that would improve the whole city of a different work ethic, like the ones more accustomed in the West. And when you can merge those two worlds together as Peru becomes more global, because now even Peruvians can go to Spain without a visa. So yeah, it's becoming a lot more easier. As that continues to develop, I think we could preserve the culture and also allow Peruvians to access the rest of the world better. And we're, taking a step in that direction, and hopefully able to affect the workforce in Peru and, give a different perspective on how to approach work.
Well, that's really cool, Red. So I really appreciate taking the time with me to talk about this.
Right, of course.
When I come to the show, I tend to think of, I tend to like to look at products as to where they are in their life cycle, how are they going to deal with competition, what's going to happen when the next person that comes along realizes how good they've got it and then just copies it, does it a little bit better.
Right.
The beauty is with what we've been talking about this entire time, if somebody wanted to come down and compete with you, I think you'd probably welcome the competition, because you'd actually have somebody to work with and to collaborate with.
Right.
And that if somebody, that this is not an issue of somebody coming and stealing your thunder on this. You've got to put a lot of hard work into just getting this yarn.
Right. Yes.
Here.
Yeah.
Just bringing that here took you a lot of work. And,
right.
Okay, so just to back up, alpaca wool for performance.
Right.
Hard to get your hands on.
Right.
If you want to get your hands
cloth.
on alpaca wool for performance, you can talk to the guys from Arms of Andes, and if they want to find out more about what garments you have available,
yes,
also about your story and anything else,
right,
where do we send it?
Okay, website armsofandes.com, Instagram Arms of Andes, that's ARMS.
All the links will be in the description.
OFANDS, exactly.
Awesome.
All right.
Anything else? Are you in any retail stores in North America right now?
We're just starting, so it's the main is off our website.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, wool base layer is like nothing else. Especially if you're traveling, it keeps the stink down and it keeps it from having to pack a bunch of stuff. It's super cool. So I'm really excited to see some products from you guys, and I wish you the best. I admire what you guys are doing, and I'm going to be following your story pretty closely for a while.
Perfect. Yeah, come check out our base layers, and we'd love to be in touch. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Ensign.
Take care.